Matthew Layton.
On this episode of Audiobook Club, the man who invented the internet, Sir Tim Berners Lee.
I was 34 years old when I first presented the idea for the World Wide Web. At the time, I was working in Switzerland as a programmer at a particle accelerator. No one was asking for the web, and almost no one expected anything to come from it. I had never been to Silicon Valley. I had no connection to venture capital. I was far from computer science research centers like Stanford University and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. I had no track record as an inventor, held no patents, had never started a business, I had never managed a team of people, and I'd published only a couple of research papers.
Audiobook Club with Steve Phillips and Matthew Layton.
Hello and welcome to Audiobook Club, the podcast about audiobooks that's not been replaced by AI. We've not been replaced by AI. Oh, that was me trying to do an impression of AI. What is the point? Because AI is so amazing now, isn't it, Matt, that actually you may as well, we should have long been replaced by AI. It's overdue, thank goodness. It comes to sweet mercy, frankly, doesn't it?
Maybe we should be referred to as human slop.
Yes, not for the first time. Matthew, I saw that pile of human slop last night. What were you eating?
That's our episode from last week, Steve.
It probably was, yes, absolutely. So this week we're casting an ear over This Is For Everyone, the captivating memoir from the inventor of the World Wide Web. That is Sir Tim Berners Lee. It's narrated by Stephen Fry with a prologue by Tim Berners Lee. 11 hours and 39 minutes of internet goodness for you. Came out on the 9th of September from Macmillan. We really learnt this week, didn't we?
Did you? How far did you get with it?
So I got probably about 3/4 of the way through. Must confess I dipped in and out a little bit here and there, but it was really interesting to get his thoughts on the way things are today. So for someone who invented, kind of so by accident, but he invented the internet from CERN by getting, computers to talk to telephone lines and all the rest of it and making those connections. Getting his thoughts on AI, the moral direction that the internet has gone down, how the power is now in basically very, very few major companies, mainly in the US. And also, things like the contract for the internet, which we can probably touch on later on, and what's coming down, what's coming into the future. It's like everything, like when social media came out, it's all very democratic insofar as there's lots of good about it, but then we discover there's lots of bad about it as well. Yeah,
I enjoyed this one. I actually, if I was one of those people who did a podcast with the video and had a bookcase behind me, I would want this book to be there, and I'd probably have it spine in because I've got loads of little, on my Audible copy, I've made loads of little post-it notes of bits I want to refer back to. And there are elements of this book that I think, you'd want to pull it down from a shelf and read about it. And, at the moment, as the relevant news stories, particularly on AI, came along, it claims to be a memoir, but I thought it was more like a sort of a manifesto in the end. There's a bit of me going, he's a lovely man. He's very British, very modest, and very optimistic. But it just struck me, a lot of it, that he must have had some sort of Oppenheimer moment where he has this great invention and then goes, "What have I done?" He couldn't put the genie back in the bottle. It's interesting. I think he as a personality is interesting. I think he, through the lens of Stephen Fry's narration, is interesting. I certainly enjoyed myself. I feel like trying to sum this whole 11 hours and 39 minutes up in the time that we have there with the brain power that we have available. I mean, AI is already smarter than us, Steve, I think.
Yeah, it's really depressing. I actually had my first ever verbal conversation with ChatGPT last week, just asking it some general knowledge questions, really, and I pressed the wrong button. I thought I was pressing the microphone, tap out your question through voice kind of thing. But it was actually have a chat with ChatGPT, and nice person,
Lovely
to be
chap.
honest. It was a male voice I had. He agreed with pretty much everything I said. I don't know, because it has been going for near on 30 years now. I don't know if you follow South Park these days, but it's been certainly in the news an awful lot with its anti-Trump episodes and all the rest of it. But they've got one of the characters asking for marriage guidance using ChatGPT, and his wife's right next to him. When he says, "Why don't you talk it over with a friend?" and he just ends up sort of pouring his guts out to ChatGPT, and every answer is very positive. So if you want to do something really bad, you get a very positive kind of reply from ChatGPT. Hey, a nuclear bomb, that's a great idea. That'll really obliterate half of Eastern Europe. And
I had that this week. And again, I've been experimenting with it. It's been in the news. As we know, it's getting better and better every month, and we shall be replaced by the end of the year, I reckon. But I had that thing where it told me, that's a very good question. Yeah, I know it is. I wouldn't have asked it if it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely right. It's like...
I'm being patronised by my mobile phone. It's... I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, this will make it onto video. Yeah, this will make it onto... I mean, you do think that it's still built by humans, It's not quite there yet. You can tell an AI voiceover still. You can tell an AI video. Actually, no. I'll tell you what, this week I made a discovery, and I can't remember if I mentioned it to you because we met during the week. But Sora 2, did I talk to you about that?
Briefly, yes.
Sora 2 is, for those who haven't heard of this, OpenAI is the company. I feel like a Rory Stewart explainer here. OpenAI is the company that has born ChatGPT. They have just launched in the States Sora 2, which is what is their pitch for a social network. And essentially it's like TikTok or Instagram Reels, where you are completely made up of AI generated videos. But these videos are extraordinarily lifelike. Never seen anything like it before in terms of its accuracy and what it gets people to do all kinds of things. You can actually have your friends in these videos as AIs. There appears to be lots of deceased famous people in these AIs. So I don't know if someone passes, then they lose their digital rights necessarily. But you've got Hitler being pulled over by a US cop for speeding. And looking genuinely like Hitler and protesting about it. There's all kinds of, I think there's Gandhi and Mother Teresa having a WWE wrestling match. And obviously it's very frivolous, but the other side is, of course, that from a cyber security point of view, if I can get a little bit crimey-wimey on you for a moment.
Yeah.
This is not good because what is currently proliferating in terms of fraud is pretty much dominated by generative AI now. Back in the day, I got an email from, I think it was Norwich City Council, saying I'd committed some sort of parking offence in Greater Manchester and I should pay the fine immediately. And of course, wrong council, wrong place, wrong time. I wasn't in Manchester. But now everything looks absolutely perfect. And
Sir Tim brings up a couple of those, and he says, the new one is that it can phone you pretending to be one of your relatives.
Yes.
Or somebody can phone you pretending to be one of your relatives. And before the kidnap demand gets out, it's handed over to the actual scammer who says, send us money and we'll let them go. And there's another one, the millions of dollars got swindled from a financial firm because there was a conference call where everybody was replaced by AI. It wasn't just the managing director giving the person the instruction. Everyone else in the meeting was fake as well. So it's, look, we have to be careful. This stuff is changing week by week. I am not an expert. I am overwhelmed. And actually, next week, if we get too deep into this, we'll be out of date because it will have moved on further. It literally feels like it's moving that quickly at the moment.
Next week's book is definitely an anecdote, an antidote to this week's book.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a minute. I might have to rail against you and change next week's book. But what I'm saying is, cybersecurity, I'll trust you on. You also know some stuff about reviewing audiobooks. I also know some stuff about reviewing audiobooks. But I think if we end up talking too much about how overwhelming AI is, we're going to be here for hours and not get to discuss the book. In fact, as I say, my problem is I'm having difficulty summing up this incredibly intelligent man's incredibly varied and nuanced and sensitive. And he was there in the room when it happened for the internet, Web 2.0 and now Web 3.0 or whatever it is. See, I even got that wrong.
Well, if anyone can sum things up in a pithy soundbite, it's us two. We'll be fine. We'll be fine.
Shall we focus on the product? Shall we do our job?
Let's do the 3-step process. So if you're a first-time listener to Audiobook Club, it's the author first we discussed, then the text, then the audiobook production. Did it bring anything extra to the party over and above the printed version? So shall we have a little look into Tim Berners Lee's past? Shall we Google Tim Berners-Lee metaphorically and audibly?
Well, you don't Google them anymore. This is it. In the book, it says you now have to say, shall we chat them?
Oh, shall we chat them?
You don't chat. Yeah, it's a transitive verb. The verb chat. I'm gonna chat you up
next week. We can actually ask the virtual Tim Berners Lee what his past was like. Hey, no Google, no Chat GPT. It'd be like a virtual him.
You know how nobody wants to come on this podcast.
Oh yes, we can have guests. We can have whoever we want on guests.
Now. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Do you know? Because the first bit of it says it's a memoir. As I say, I don't think it's just a memoir. It's more than that. So I'm going to keep the description of Sir Tim Berners Lee quite quick. And if I could just move that over there, that's better. Sir Timothy John Berners Lee, born 8th of June 1955. Is an English computer scientist best known as the inventor of the World Wide Web, HTML, the URL system, and HTTP. I mean,
like his earlier work.
That's about that's about 6 paragraphs of anybody else's. He's professorial research fellow at the University of Oxford and a professor emeritus at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I think I would add from that something that you get from your vague impressions of him and knowledge of him as a British male citizen of my age and background is that he seems to be, he comes from an old-fashioned British school of modesty, hard work, a little bit of whimsy. It's just something old-fashioned about him, isn't there? Even though he's the man who invented the World Wide Web.
I love a whimsical scientist, you know, a whimsical British scientist. That's who I'd like as our third co-presenter. That would be lovely. Be really, really nice, I think. It's interesting. You'll never get, whenever you read out these biographies of these authors every single week, there's never a kind of, you know, they graduated from Middlesex University. And I say it because that's the university I went to, by the way. So maybe I've got a right to do that. I don't know. But it's always Oxford or Cambridge, isn't it? when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, but remember,
am I being a little bit too?
Not everybody who goes to Oxford or Cambridge is an incredible success in their life. Like me.
You were amazing. Don't be silly. Okay, so the other, yeah, you at least. There's still time. Get on with it, and then you can have a biography saying, Matthew, you graduated from Magdalen College, was it? I don't know which one.
Jesus.
What? What's the matter?
No, I went to Jesus. I went to Jesus College, Cambridge, which meant every time I wrote an essay, I used to write my name in the top left corner, and then just write Jesus in block capital letters, which is roughly how I felt about most of the work I'd done. Finally, I was about to ask you. What's the difference between a memoir and an autobiography? I don't know. And then I realised the other question I have to ask, because I'm in Australia at the moment, staying round the corner from the kids in a none too salubrious hotel. What's the difference between a flop house and a doss house? I wonder which one I'm in. I think a flop house is when you get booted out by the wife, and the doss house is 20 years after that, when you've done some solid drinking. I think this is more of a flop house where I'm staying.
I appreciate you invoking our typical, usual quota of 2 old school 70s references. So congratulations for using strike one, the wife in inverted commas there. So you've only got one. You've only got one more. So if you just need to call me love or something in the course of the dialogue.
Oh, well, of course, these days now that's no longer chicks dig me. Of course,
put that away.
Sorry, we've become frightened of the incredible immensity of the task in front of us. Let's go on to the book, because more about his life will come out through our conversation after you've done the bit, which is the only reason that people from listen to this, the number 115 book podcast in Norway. Mr. Steve Phillips, my esteemed co-presenter, reads the blurb from the back of the book.
If I could just quickly interject, for anyone who doesn't know this, the difference between an autobiography and a memoir is that an autobiography focuses on the entire life of the author, and the memoir focuses on a specific period of time. Political chaos moment, that sort of thing. So there we go.
Okay, so the answer to both of my questions: what's the difference between a memoir and an autobiography, and what's the difference between a flop house and a doss house? The answer to both questions is about 20 years.
I'd say so. Although I'll pop that into ChatGPT in just.
I'm amusing myself, if not you.
Yes, certainly not the listener. We've really alienated you yourselves, dear listener. Let's just ring us back in to.
Let's bring out the big guns.
This is what the book is.
Let's bring out the big guns.
The most influential inventor of the modern world, Sir Tim Berners Lee, is a different kind of visionary. Born in the same year as Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, Berners-Lee famously shared his invention, the World Wide Web, for no commercial reward. Its widespread adoption changed everything, transforming humanity into the first digital species. Through the web, we live, work, dream, and connect. In this intimate memoir, Berners-Lee tells the story of his iconic invention, exploring how it launched a new area of creativity and collaboration while unleashing a commercial race that today imperils democracies and polarizes public debate. As the rapid development of artificial intelligence heralds a new era of innovation, Berners-Lee provides the perfect guide to the crucial decisions ahead and a gripping, in-the-room account of the rise of the online world. Filled with Sir Tim's characteristic optimism, technical insight, and wry humour, this is a book about the power of technology, both to fuel our worst instincts and to profoundly shape our lives for the better. This is for everyone is an essential read for understanding our times and a bold manifesto for advancing humanity's future. It's not a comedy.
Well,
that's not the blurb, by the way. That was just me adding things on there. AI wouldn't do that. I'll just read out verbatim. But
you're editorializing.
I've given them 3 extra words there for no extra cost.
So do you know what? I don't know where it's gone because I'm doing this shonky setup in the DOS house. I had loads and loads of notes, but I think I can do it off the top of my head. So the first part of the book is a memoir. His childhood. The blurb said that he was born the same year as Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. Not only that, he was born to 2 computer scientists, both of whom had worked at Bletchley Park and knew personally Alan Turing. He grew up in East Sheen, which is southwest London, out there on the district line, I think, Steve. And
yes, it is. Yes, that's right.
And speaks of his ideal childhood at a high performing state school. Then he went on to Oxford. So he was good at maths at school and did his electrical engineering stuff at home using transistors and he called them breadboards, but I know the things you mean. You know the little circuit boards you used to do at school where they were made of wood and you'd have...
Yeah, motherboards?
I don't know. No, bigger than... Motherboards is microchips, isn't it? This was before microchips, so it's transistors. So he did all that. He wanted to there was no such subject as computer science at Oxford at that point. He was really good at maths, so he thought he'd study physics as that was halfway in between. He did very well. He came out with a first, which is... I mean, that is the top 10% academically of the top 1% who got to Oxford. So, he's no slouch. Although, he's, again, incredibly modest throughout. He then went and worked for a computer company in Poole after that in the mid-70s. And the company he worked for... The revolutionary thing that they did with the computer is one of the things they did was for Sainsbury's, and it changed stock control for Sainsbury's. So what used to happen is, in order to run a shop, you had to have a warehouse the size of the shop to keep all your stock, but the computer programming that he and his colleagues did allowed Sainsbury's to order stock on demand by tracking it all. And all of this stuff, of course, it wasn't recorded on microchips or phones with screens or iPads. It was all recorded as sounds on cassettes. So fascinating time. And he tells a story, right, of at one point, one rainy weekend, he goes out for a walk with a mate of his who he met in his last week at Oxford and who went on to work for the same company. And they're just having a chat on their walk. And they invented the security code, which is multiplying one prime number by another prime number, which secures every transaction we do. Just while having a walk. He invents the stuff that allows for all passwords on the internet and for us to tap in PIN numbers for our ATMs on a card. So he just happens to do that.
It's a real it's a real case study for the positivity of going for a walk, isn't it?
Yes, and not like us going to the pub.
No, exactly. But Steve Jobs did the same thing. He used to go out for a walk. That was when he conducted a lot of his business discussions. Was he'd call someone up and say, "Let's go for a walk," and he'd go out for a walk with whoever else is high up at Apple or someone else or Pixar, and they do the same thing. They'd strike a deal or something, and obviously, clearly, the same thing is happening. I really wish walking was as productive. If you imagine everyone had the same kind of walk that produced something amazing just while they went out for a walk.
Yeah.
What a world we'd live in there.
I had quite a good idea this week, but that was mainly driven by sleep deprivation and pushing the limits of sanity. That's also one of the ways I do it.
That's the other one, isn't it?
Yeah. So he's famous. It mentions that he invented the internet while working for CERN, which is interesting because that was in 1980, and he got a temporary contract to go and help them design the control system or update the control system for their smallest particle collider at the time. And the interesting thing was that CERN in itself is on the border of Switzerland and France, deep underground in the Alps, which of course means there are many different languages there. And this was part of his problem, was trying to gather all these ideas. And not only were they in different languages, but one vital piece of information would be on a floppy disk in a filing cabinet. And another piece of information that he needed for the whole would be underneath somebody's coffee cup on a piece of paper in German. And he had a need to bring all of those pieces of information together to understand how the thing worked. So he had to make them all speak the same language. All of those pieces of information, different sources, different languages, different storage methods, had to be brought together in one place. So he put together a document and a disk that organized all of this. And that was in 1980. What a great and efficient idea. Must have helped them a lot. But then his contract ended and he went away. and came back in 1984, and they hadn't done anything about it. So he picks up this idea again. And I think the key thing from what I can tell, and please, gentle listener, if you want to correct me on this, as I say, I'm slightly out of my depth and cannot explain it as well as the man who invented it. But over the course of the next 5 years, the key bit was it's not a text document. Some of the things in the document are linked to other sources of information. Is that right, Steve? I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're more technical than I am.
Yes, yeah. I'd say you're about right. I wanted to,
but that's the HTML bit, isn't it? But the whole thing is, I think the really good thing I think is the luck he had. He was born in exactly the right place at exactly the right time. The stuff he invents on his walks is, partly temperament, lucky that he has a brain that got joy from solving puzzles. His mother she was quite hands-on and she used to have a round calendar. I can't quite visualize it, but apparently it was very easy, and everybody in the household understood what was going on better than your conventional flip calendar that we had at those times. So it was on the wall, big circle, the whole year. So you could see when the school holidays were. And he said that he had a copy of that on the wall in his office to encourage him to do what his mama said and always find a different way of looking at things.
Oh, what a parent.
So he's got the maths bit, he's got the two computer scientist parents, he's got the time, he's got the maths bit. I'm not taking anything away from his intelligence or dedication, but there's almost an extent to which the universe had decided that he was the man who was going to invent the internet. I don't think
he's simplifying it at all. And actually, I mean, I'm hoping that he would agree that.
I'm sure he'd acknowledge it as well. I think
he would want to agree with you primarily because he wants to kind of pass that work ethic, that very sort of simple understanding of how to look at things differently to every single child around the world.
I think it's more than that, Steve. I think you have to look at I can look at you and me and say the same thing, that actually the product of where we were born, when we were born. As you get older, it makes a little more sense as to the human being you've come, and you have to realise that a lot of it is more by luck than by judgment. I think Bill Gates was quite good at this when we did his autobiography a couple of years ago. Steve Jobs, of course, wasn't. He was quite the opposite. I saw the Aaron Sorkin Steve Jobs film in the last couple of weeks, and wow, it reminded me of what a not very nice person Steve Jobs was. But this is the British version, isn't it? He's the British Steve Jobs. He is not harsh. He is
genial as well as genius. I'd say
genius is a great word. I was in the middle of saying gentle, but yeah. But again, I think it's lovely. I think so. The autobiography / memoir part is only the first part of the book. It paints a really vivid image that I think you and I can relate to of, somewhere that I grew up 5 miles and you grew up 10 miles from Richmond Park, I would guess.
Yes, I grew up very, very east. So yeah, I'd never heard of or even seen Richmond Park in the first 10 years of my life, to be honest. I was around Valentine's Park in Ilford.
Well, last night I was having in the back garden. It's 24 degrees here at the moment in Adelaide, and I was having a drink in the back garden with my friend Jane, and she was shouting. I think her husband tipped out the dregs of a can of booze on the grass, and the dog went over and licked it up, and she just shouted, "Eliza, Eliza!" And to which my response was, Fenton. And she didn't know who Fenton was. Fenton, of course, was the man in a park chasing after the dog. And I had to pull up the video. And as soon as I pulled up the video, I went, "That's Richmond Park, isn't it?" It's a deer park, and at certain times of the year, some of the grass grows really long and goes yellow. And I just went, "That's so clearly Richmond Park." So I'm very familiar with where he grew up. I'm very familiar with what Sainsbury's used to look like in the 1970s. And yeah, I found it very relatable. But once the real nub of the book for me is, and he builds up to it really slowly, but it is it is about his Oppenheimer moment. And, you know, he was genuinely, I think, and he certainly expresses it this way, that he was about sharing information and making communication easier between people. The downside of that includes an internet that's full of pornography, crime, makes teenage girls depressed about their bodies and teenage boys into violent thugs. And again, I think that's Internet 1.0, Internet 2.0, which is when social media comes in and the algorithms are designed to make us angry as much as bring us joy, if you see what I mean. The idea that
it just feeds you. It feeds into your beliefs and it feeds you what you want. If you want, you know, did you like this video full of hate? Here's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. Don't go away from our platform. Here's another one. And that's essentially, you know, there's a lot of, obviously there's a continual and raging debate about social networking platforms. And I can't remember if this was in the book or if this was not in the book, but, social media platforms are not social media platforms now. They're marketing.
No. And that's the thing he said. He's talking about this and how, even though he set out with the best intentions with the internet in the 1990s, and then social media came along in the late 2000s when you were one of the people and it brought us joy. But actually, particularly with 2.0, the social media part of the internet that's happened in the last 17, 20 years, it has become a negative thing. We're now standing at the gates of the brave new world of AI. And he's sort of, again, he's being a bit too optimistic. I didn't quite find, and he justifies it in the end. He's going, but the internet's a wonderful sharing community thing. We just got a couple of bits wrong. Now we can see that this new overwhelming technology / platform is coming. As someone who got it wrong a couple of times, these are the things that I believe we need to do now. Because the last two times, I locked the stable door after the horse had bolted. But maybe we can get AI to work more along the principles of how we use calendars, and podcasts were the ones he mentioned. That stuff that actually any of the calendar or any podcast you listen to can be listened to through any platform. So you know, if you're a Mac user and I'm on my Android phone, you and I can send each other messages and arrange to meet up. But you can't put your Facebook photos on LinkedIn. That's just that's directly from Tim Berners Lee. That's how he explained it. He made it that simple.
But you used to. This is the thing, and this is what all these networks clamped down on. You could happily embed a Facebook photo on Twitter or embed a YouTube video on Twitter at the time.
Yeah.
And then they stopped it. It's just links now because they're all rivals now because it's like everything. This is not a new. It's a new phenomenon, but it's an old phenomenon. It's all about money, and it's all about keeping your data. And I say this to so many people all the time. Your data is a commodity.
And again, this is the bit. Obviously, your career has evolved, and you have become a cyber security professional working for a number of blue chip organizations in the last few years. So this isn't just some bloke on a podcast waffling when you're talking about this stuff. The data stuff is interesting. What he refers to through the book, and then it changes at the end, is data pods. At the moment, we give all our data away multiple times, and we give it to large American companies. His argument is that if we get the AI thing working, you should have your own personal assistant, and all your data should be in one place, a pod, he calls it. And he keeps calling it a Solid pod.
Yeah.
Solid is the name of his company, but I keep seeing just a pod in my head.
Solid is what's known as a protocol. It's kind of it's a way of working in computers, basically.
It's one of his. That's what he does. He invented that too. Again, it's a familiar thing to you, but not to me. And then he basically said, and the thing is, I've learned not to call it a pod now. If I'm talking to banks or governments, I call it a data wallet. The idea that we have control of our own data and decide where it goes with the help of. Did you get as far as Charlie?
No.
Charlie is. It was a thought exercise 10 years ago, and it was about a personal. Well, you know what? The great thing is, moving us on to how the audiobook sounded, in a Jeeves and Wooster kind of way, this is Stephen Fry describing what Charlie is.
But when I was first considering the links between Solid and AI, looking at the preponderance of then relatively simple voice agents like Alexa, Siri and others, it seemed they all worked for big tech. That is, they were constantly acting as agents for airlines, hotels, and so on. I wanted an AI that worked for me. In 2017, I wrote for a talk, which became a note on my Design Issues hypertext page, an imagined conversation with such an AI, which I called Charlie. Bob was fed up with the AIs around him, who all seemed to work for other people, so he got Charlie. Charlie is an AI, and Charlie works for Bob. Because Charlie works for Bob, Bob gives Charlie access to much more data than he would another AI. Good morning, Bob. Good to see you on the exercise bike. Your fitness goals are on track. In fact, because the meeting was moved, do you want to stretch this to the full hour? We can do some climbs and have time to unwind. Okay, sure. Okay, so let's start at 100 cadence to warm up, and we can go over a few things. Overnight, a bunch of offers came in for your art, but as far as I could tell, none of them really make sense to you after you've paid the fees. I just invested a little in one new startup, mainly because it will give you something else in common with your mother-in-law. Speaking of relatives, you have quite a bunch of vegans coming on Saturday. I took the liberty of making up a recipe for the thing you really liked at the Indian cafe the other day. You made up a recipe? Well, the chef hadn't published that one, but he has published a dozen books, so I read those as a training set and then extrapolated how he would cook the menu you liked. Okay?
You get the idea.
I want Charlie.
So for those of you who are too young or too foreign to know, in the late 1980s, early 1990s, ITV, the third broadcaster in the UK, adapted P.G. Woodhouse's Jeeves and Wooster for the television with Hugh Laurie, Dr. House as Bertie Wooster, and Stephen Fry as his gentleman's gentleman Jeeves. And it's almost, for some reason, the world's gone in a mad circle and Stephen Fry's a butler again.
Yeah.
I found that quite interesting, Steve. I quite liked it.
Everyone can now be Bertie Wooster. And I think this is... It's such an interesting concept. I hadn't heard of... He mentioned the company that he founded, co-founded and became the CTO of Inrupt. And innovation and disruption, the sort of collision of those two words there. And it not only, I mean, it obviously it highlights this solution that we're talking about, but it also really highlights for me and for everybody that your data is with a lot of multi-billion pound making companies. Your data is there. Your data is that commodity and you're just giving your data away. I always talk about oversharing on social media. Don't do it, because it's a great way for hackers to discover your passwords and things. But, your data is a commodity, and actually realize that and start, I think things are very dangerous the way they are. We now have platforms being run by people, and it's got very political certainly in the last few years, where you now.
Oh well, again, I think this book must have been completed before Elon Musk took his dongle into the US government and copied all of their data. I think it's still to be found out what's going on there, isn't it? What's the word in the street in the cybersecurity industry on that one, Steve?
Personally, I don't know, but someone will. Someone will have a pretty good idea. There are lots, and I could recommend all sorts of podcasts on talking about this kind of stuff. The trick is to find. It's very difficult now to find genuinely unbiased, factual information about things now on social networks, because everyone will come back with a political point to make, or or an ideological point to make, rather than a factual point to make.
Yeah.
And facts, we are now, the fact that we are in a situation where we talk about, and I've been listening to the Elton autobiography, so he the fact that we're talking about post-truth as though it's just, it's water for ducks back now to talk about post-truth. We live in a world where it literally does not matter about your facts. If something is actually true, someone can say, no, it's not, and it's fine.
But again, the very discussion of this very problem in this way, all of it is actually Berners Lee's fault.
Yeah. Does he acknowledge this at the end?
If he hadn't let this genie out of the bottle,
say I'm sorry at the end.
I think he acknowledges it all the way through.
Yeah.
And what he's trying to do with that. I mean, the bit before that Charlie thought exercise butler bit, virtual butler, he's actually talking about trust and who we trust our data with. And one of the things he says is, in America, from kindergarten upwards, you're taught not to trust the government and to bear arms if they start messing about. Whereas in Europe, it's the opposite. We're broadly brought up to trust government, but we don't trust corporations, except for, and this is maybe where you come in, banks, who we're happy to give all our money to. We don't think just how much of giving our data away are our bank accounts.
Well, I mean, because it's money, it's very, very, it's the most secure industry because it has to be. Banks, of course, have obviously been in the news down this
until it isn't.
Well, I mean, is anything 100% foolproof? But I think there's other things coming down the track as well as AI, which these companies need to be thinking about now in terms of the ramifications of, and that is things like quantum computing. Mm. And quantum computing is a whole different thing. It's not you looking at a keyboard on your screen. This is a completely different beast now. They're talking about this thing being able to...
Again, in this book, it's mentioned in the context of passwords are now dead.
Yes, and that's true.
Because the power of a quantum computer Google is apparently... How did he put it? It's going from security password to security keys.
Yes.
It's got to be a bit of a biometric, be it your thumb or your eyeballs.
Yes.
Or the shape of your face and that type of thing to make it even hard to get into. Listen, what podcast are we doing? Are we doing cybersecurity or are we doing audiobook club? I'm going to rein us back in.
Okay, we're doing both. That's what we're doing. No. Now the author, the reader, the narrator, the guy who speaks the words.
The narrator. Yeah. So the clip we played at the beginning, I wanted to put that in. Just it's your usual thing is it's just the author for chapter 1 or the prologue, and then they hand over, in this case, to my friend Stephen Fry. But in this case, I think you can hear the difference between the proficiency of the two narrators, can't you? And that it is actually quite justified, and Stephen Fry is knowledgeable enough about the subject. How did you find your 8.5 hours with Stephen Fry, Steve?
Yeah, I think this is an absolutely perfect choice. Stephen Fry is obviously he narrates a lot of audiobooks. He lends his voice to all sorts of myriad things. Now the thing about technology, and when people who work in technology talk about technology, there has been a problem which has always been worked on. They acknowledge it. This is why you could go back to Steve Jobs. It was far too technical, and people talking about Unix and just coming out with tech jargon that only tech people will know. If you're trying to market something to the masses, you have to speak very, very simply and sell it. And this is the thing: is that Tim Berners Lee is obviously very, very extraordinarily technical, and so I would want Stephen Fry by my side to actually make it accessible. And I think he does an absolutely excellent job here.
Right. Well, as you know, I've got issues.
I know.
I have long-term Stephen Fry beef, and that's because it was the girl's birthday the day before we recorded this January.
Happy birthday
to Charlotte and Wizzy. But as they were growing up, Stephen Fry basically curated their lives. He started off by being the voice of Pocoyo, which is a great animated series that I could watch with you if we'd had the right herbal infusion. I could watch that for a couple of hours with you. But then the Harry Potter books came, and I dug out a little clip I did for my last job that I wanted to play you. We had a smart speaker in every room in the house. And as the girls would get ready to go to school in the morning, as they went to the bathroom to brush their teeth, they'd go, "Alexa, play Harry Potter." And then they'd go into the kitchen where I'd give them breakfast. "Alexa, play Harry Potter." And then they'd go and get dressed in their bedroom and put it on there. So I basically spent the best part of 6 years with Stephen Fry saying 3 different things from 3 different rooms at me. I've got a little clip here of what I used to have to do when they left for school in the morning. My life sounded a bit like this. Yes, I put it in your bag. Goodbye, everybody. Alexa, stop.
Sincerely, Fudge. The man in the painting
Alexa,
looks
stop. Alexa, stop. So, you know those radio stations that go all hits all the time? Basically, I used to have Stephen Fry for 72 hours a day. Hang
on, can I just check? You were basically, your daughters would be in one room, say play Harry Potter, but they didn't, when they left the room, they didn't say stop playing Harry Potter, then go into another room and strike it. They basically had
because they were 7.
Random pieces of different books playing in different rooms at the same time.
All at the same time from different directions. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, well, Stephen, if you're listening, that please just come on. Maybe some sort of health warning.
Look, maybe I'm slightly over it now, but then I think the next thing they do, obviously, as somebody who used to live in Baker Street, quite keen that my children listen to Sherlock Holmes. And
of course,
what happens then is I go, I'll download that. Complete works of Sherlock Holmes for free. Who have they got to read that then? Stephen Fry. And then, of course, you want to. I realised I hadn't read enough Orwell, and then a new compilation of or a collection of George Orwell's works came out on Audible. I thought I'd download that. This would be great. I'll tell Steve about this. And it opened with Stephen Fry. In fact, you're very good at looking stuff up on the internet, Steve. I would like you to go to Audible's UK site, maybe have a look at the charts, have a look at the podcast as I'm having my little rant, and and tell me, how would you describe the percentage of audiobooks that are front and center on that website are read by Stephen Fry?
Okay, so I can give you the answer immediately. On the webpage I have up here, I've got 20 items.
You haven't asked AI. I'm asking
No.
you.
I'm on Audible. I'm on Audible right now. Yeah. I have 20 items per page, and there are 9 pages of Stephen Fry reading something or being in something on Audible right now.
180 titles, and you'll find the top 10 is there are normally 2 or 3 Harry Potters still in the top 10.
Yeah, the first one is Deathly Hallows Book 7, then it's Prisoner of Azkaban, then it's Chamber of Secrets, Goblet of Fire. I mean, most of it is Harry Potter, to be fair. There's some of his own books, of course.
All of those are in the top 20. Yeah, then there's the Mythos
Ghost Stories, complete novels of Charles Dickens, once you finish Conan Doyle. He's in Blackadder, of course. He narrates Hitchhikers, the latest, the 2012 recording of that. And P.G. Wodehouse, of course, he does that too. Paddington Bear, he's done. There's Winnie the Pooh, he's done.
That's the other one he did. That's it. So it went from Pocoyo to Paddington to Harry Potter. If you want the kids to do Animal Farm or Sherlock Holmes,
Blackadder,
as I do.
Blackadder, bit of Flying Lorries.
It's a monopoly.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, look, I'll be totally honest. You've heard me rant about this for years, and I have to say, perhaps I've now, because I had to sit there and listen to it, I've had a little reconciliation. My relationship with Stephen Fry has perhaps reached a bit of a point. It really did drive me up the wall for a very, very long time. But I think you're right.
He's brilliant, though. We should have a Stephen Fry tribute episode here. I think a Stephen Fry tribute, because he's a bastion of audiobooks, I think.
Don't push it. So the other interesting thing that happens, so Stephen Fry, great for reading this, actually does bring some warmth and mansplaining, and which adds to Berners Lee's text. I have to say, Tim Berners Lee does write very nicely and brings up loads of images of him feeding ducks or sailing or going to dinners with Desmond Tutu. You know, all of those things are really well evoked, and he is a communicator as well as a scientist. And then there's an interview at the end, which I listened to both times I listened to the book. The first time I listened, it irritated me slightly. Stephen Fry is not a great interviewer, partly because there's too much of him there. But he's the right person to do this book. As it says in the interview, he was very proudly telling Tim Berners Lee during the interview that he'd made his own website in 1994 in HTML. Before HTML2 came out, he couldn't even use frames. It is what Stephen Fry said. So he does love this stuff. I think he did it on a Next computer rather than an Apple computer.
Oh wow! Yeah. A Next computer.
Yeah. So as well as knowing all about Latin and curating my children's childhoods, he is actually genuinely passionate about the subject matter as well.
He's a tech head. He is a proper long-standing tech head. It was him who introduced me to Twitter. I was lucky. I mean, I was really early adopter of Twitter to the point where Stephen Fry used to follow me on Twitter, and I'm a nobody. Do you know what I mean? But he used to follow everyone back, and it was an amazing journey of discovery. And it was mainly him that drew me into this discovery, and it was absolutely incredible before it turned all horrible and Pandora's box like. Now we are nearly an hour going. We never do an hour, dudes. We've got to cap this off, mate. We've got to cap it off.
Let's be considerate to others like Mr. Berners, Sir Berners Lee is.
Indeed. Now then, few things to wipe up and to mop up, not wipe up.
By the way, just so you know, all right, as you're tidying this all up, there are going to be 7 unexpected hours before the end of this podcast. Carry on as you were; it'll come up.
Right, an 8-hour podcast. Right, okay. So, performance or narration for Stephen Fry?
Performance, beautifully handcrafted. Yeah. You don't get that with AI.
You don't.
I think you heard with the tone that he he can adapt his voice. I love that bit where he's both Charlie and Bob in the clip we played earlier.
Yeah, definitely. And the book as a whole, would you recommend it?
Absolutely. And again, it's one of those things where I think I would have a tattered copy on my shelves with little Post-it notes in it if I had a physical copy of the book. I may end up referring to it. It's stuck with me. It's educated me. It's made me think. It's made me think that I need to learn to communicate stuff better. So, yeah, brilliant.
Okay, right then. So we're recommending, this is for everyone, The Captivating Memoir from the Inventor of the World Wide Web by Tim Berners Lee, as we've been talking about, narrated by Tim Berners Lee at the start, and then handing over to Stephen Fry. 11 hours and 39 minutes, came out 9th of September 2025 from Macmillan. Now, next week, we're going to we've got a choice of lessons in life rather than lessons in tech from Mr. Ozzy Osbourne, or you've added Ben Elton's biography down here as well, autobiography. So
I have. You were adamant that we were going to do Ozzy Osbourne. I'm conscious that we've done. I think it'll be our third biography in a row. We'll have to sort something out there. Mm-hmm. But you were talking about the Ben Elton book, which I had already downloaded when you and I. It's Sunday today. We had a pint in London on Monday.
We did.
I am now in Adelaide, in Australia, as we talk, as we record. I got into the Ben Elton book, which of course features Stephen Fry quite a lot. And it turns out they're mates. Ben Elton is if we do a brief explainer, he is a writer first, comedian second, wrote Blackadder most notably, and then worked with Tim Rice and which musicals did he do, Steve?
Oh, he did We Will Rock You.
We Will Rock You, there you go. So he's all right for cash. But lots of it is about that place that you and I used to work.
Yeah, of course.
In those long, dark nights. And I was listening to it on my own long, dark night of the soul this week. So I got on the plane in Qatar, in Doha, and on my ticket it said... it said Doha to Adelaide. I got on the plane, flight number 988. I got on the plane, and the captain came on and said, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome aboard flight number QR 988 to Melbourne." I go, "What?" Excuse me. Because as you know, like, part of the thing about living in Adelaide is it's like an island. It's 8 hours drive to Melbourne, and I can't drive. So I was a little concerned at this point. I called over and I said, "Excuse me, what's going on?" "Oh, it'll be fine, sir. We'll talk to you later on." 13 hours and 30 minutes later, I as we touched down, I go, "No, excuse me, what's going on? Am I going to..." Because we flew over Adelaide an hour ago.
Yeah.
"Oh, it's okay, so you stay in your seat. We'll get somebody to talk to you in a minute." And then I was sitting there, with my shoes off, having been on a plane for 13 and a half hours, on the road for 30 hours. Mm. And they go, "Okay, so, well, you'll have to leave the plane now. Please ask the people at the other end of the airport gate for assistance." It was about midnight in Melbourne at that point, and they explained to me that I would have to go and sit in a room which I can only describe as Timu Regis for 7 hours.
Wow. Okay.
This place was so shoddy. They had covered up the USB ports and the plugs with painter's tape. And I had to spend, so basically the plane left at 6:40 in the morning for a 50-minute flight. And the only thing that kept me going was listening to Ben Elton's autobiography and thinking about talking about it with you. So thank you for keeping me going in my long, dark night of the soul. I got a message at the time from a friend of mine who you may know, Jamie, used to work for the BBC, and he just sent me a message saying, "Oh, I'm in blooming Heathrow. I've got to fly out to Dubai. I'm not even going business class. Wish me luck." And I went, mate, I told him, mate, your airline complaint shit is weak. I said,
how different worlds work, eh?
Yeah, my delay is longer than your journey. And he said to me, oh, I've heard of those. You're on a ghost flight.
Oh.
So, which actually cheered me up. So I was on a ghost flight, and I Googled it. It was on The Guardian, specifically Qatar Airways, because, and I've done some research locally as well, because Qantas has been struggling so much. The Australian government have hiked up the prices for foreign airlines to land here. And as long as a flight ends at a regional airport, not Melbourne or Sydney, then the airline can get a discount for bringing business to those things. So what's been happening is there were literally two passengers in the cabin with me as we did our 50-minute flight. They've got, they had to crew the plane, so they had to get a new crew. And even though they paid for landing rights in Adelaide, a whole new crew who had been staying in hotels in Melbourne to fly back and forward, right? So it's just this weird phenomenon. And at least I've got a long and winding anecdote out of it. I think that's the worst thing that can happen. Happened
wow.
I was a bit tired and starry-eyed. But I've got on a ghost flight, Steve.
Wow. Never done business
But
class,
Ben Elton kept me going. Really enjoyed
that's amazing. And how fitting as well that it was between the UK and Australia, because of course that's his life as well. There we go.
Well, indeed, yes. I think I didn't realise that till I read the book. That he is a family man who splits his time between London and Australia.
Exactly.
It actually made me feel a little bit more acceptable myself.
There you go. You see, years and years ago, he would have been listening to an audiobook about you. Who knows? Well, should we do Ben Elton next week and Aussie the week after?
Yeah, or maybe push out a couple of an extra episode. I don't know. I'm not madly keen on Aussie. I'll happily do it.
Yeah.
But I think we also need to wedge some fiction and a little bit of, Okay. I'm going to mention the C word, Christmas.
Don't.
Because one of the things we've got to do is keep an eye on what's going to be Christmas, number one, and help people decide what to buy their relatives for Christmas.
It is imminent, isn't it? Okay, well, let's do Ben Elton next week then.
Yeah. And then just something mindless and blockbustery and totally impersonal. Maybe some AI slop.
Yeah.
That we have.
Yeah, that'd be delighted. AI slop it is. Next week, we're going to be listening to What Have I Done? My autobiography by Ben Elton, read by Ben Elton.
Can I just say that? What a brilliant title for an autobiography. What have I done?
It works on so many levels. What have I done?
It does.
What have I done? What have I done?
What have I done?
Yeah.
What have I done?
Answer, what have I done? It's a question as well. It's lovely. So that's Ben Elton's autobiography, written and read by the author, of course, 9th of October. It came out in 2025, 15 hours and 59 minutes, again, from Macmillan. So that's next week's book. If you have indeed, like Matt and myself, been enjoying Ben Elton's autobiography, then drop us your comments. Hashtag is Audiobook Club. The show is Audiobook Show on Blue Sky and Instagram. And we will also be doing Last Rites by Ozzy Osbourne. This is his last book, of course, read by Ian Danter and written by Ozzy Osbourne, which came out around about the same time, actually, 7th of October, from Little Brown Audio. But next week is Ben Elton and then Ozzy Osbourne at some point after that. TBC.
Well, on the social media thing, obviously, I look after the Twitter and the Facebook. You look after the Blue Sky and the Instagram. But apparently now we have to get on Mastodon. Back Mastodon.
Oh, that's an old one. Mastodon's the old one. Yeah, before Blue Sky came out. Mastodon.
No. Mr. Berners Lee says we have to do Mastodon.
Okay, right then. Mastodon it is. And also we have to get on that.
And obviously I'm getting that Truth Social account.
Well. We'll be on Truth Social. The thing is,
I'm going to truth you,
have you seen Truth Social?
Chat me, I'll truth you.
Have you been on there?
No, I haven't.
Have you been on there?
No.
put any post on True. I mean, I've never posted on it. I just sort of, it's kind of a quick way to see how quickly, so you can see first how wrong the world is going. Or right, of course, depending on your point of view. We're politically indifferent.
So, but I should imagine it's a bit like walking into a biker bar, isn't it? And going, beards are weird, and then running out again.
Well, you see a post about literally anything. We could say something, like, we're reviewing Ben Elton's autobiography next week on Audiobook Club, and the first post will be, Trump's my president. And it's just completely unrelated stuff, And even Trump, when he posts on True Social about one subject, he'll get no contextual replies at all. It will basically be lots of memes of him being the greatest president, depending on, it could be talking about absolutely anything unrelated. So there we go. So that's basically my experience with it. Very, very inexperienced, but there we are.
While we're on figures on the internet, can I just say how much I enjoyed myself and then conveyed to my girls when I saw them yesterday for their birthday, spitting images take on Paddington. Have you seen that?
Oh yes, yeah, they're in trouble. Yeah, they've got a legal thing going on with Canal Plus, and they got the Studio Canal.
Have they? So Paddington, if he's from Peru and he's wearing a red hat and a blue duffel coat, it's quite likely he's going to be a brown snaggle-toothed coke addict. That's basically what it is.
Basically what's going on. Yeah,
and they have brought that to life. I'd take my hat off to them.
Yep, spitting image being as raucous as ever it was. Yes, absolutely. Right then, we got to go. We have to go. 1:07, dude, on the recording. So yeah, we're gonna shoot off. We'll see you next week. From wherever you are, Matt. I think you'll still be in Australia, won't you? I think probably.
I will. Yeah,
you will. Okay, right. Go well. And you go well as well, dear listener. Don't forget, we're available on all podcast platforms, good and bad, so do subscribe if you've enjoyed this, not AI slop, but, other slop. See you next week. Ta-da.
Audiobook Club with Steve Phillips and Matthew Layton.
Beautiful Anonymous changes each week. It defies genres and expectations. For example, our most recent episode, I talked to a woman who survived a murder attempt by her own son. But just the week before that, we just talked the whole time about Star Trek. We've had other recent episodes about sexting in languages that are not your first language, or what it's like to get weight loss surgery. It's unpredictable, it's real, it's honest, it's raw. Get Beautiful Anonymous wherever you listen to podcasts.